Good evening, basement dwellers and Dungeons and Dragons players. This is the NoDQ review, number 152. You know I kid to you, NoDQ Galaxy, but I am coming in hot off that awesome Dan Lambert promo last night on Dynamite. I don't even think that's a topic tonight, but that's okay. I am being joined by this week's elite panel of NoDQ. Of course, Aaron Rift, Robbie Vice is back, and then making his debut on NoDQ.com is Dr. Jargo. I met him doing some videos over on Big Vito's channel. I know he does some stuff for Hameen Media Group and elsewhere, so I will start with you, Dr. Jargo. Thank you for being on. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to this. It's not very often I get to talk American professional wrestling, so this should be a lot of fun.
And why he said that, folks, is he is a New Japan fan. So if you have any New Japan questions this evening, Super Chats, direct them for Dr. Jargo. Okay, Robbie Vice, welcome back this week. What's going on with you?
So I just want to talk about this. You call us a bunch of basement-dwelling Dungeons and Dragons players. If someone wants to throw together a NoDQ Roll 20 group, I'm just saying I would be down for that, and I would totally do it. Nothing, man. It's been a good week for me. Work's been busy. This is one of those months where everything is just lackadaisical, and then I have to cram everything in the last 7 days of my month. So, but man, other than that, it's good. There's a lot of buzz going around about a debut of some sorts. Maybe Baron Corbin's going to AEW Friday. I don't know. I heard some stuff, but I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, man, everything's good. Looking forward to having a good show with you guys.
Is that Dynamite in the background on your?
Dude, I'm a huge fan. Look at this. Everyone that watches NoDQ knows that Robbie Vice and AEW go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's my favorite thing in the world. You know, I love all the fans too. Yeah.
It's good to have you back here. And Aaron, I'm glad we went on early because everybody's still filing in like at a wrestling event when they start the dark matches and people are filing in. Like this, we're usually after 8 o'clock. This is awesome. What's going on, man?
Well, first of all, Jeff Meacham has arrived. He just apologized to Robbie Vice. I guess they've had some personal issues outside of the NoDQ channel. Now, I just realized this. I hope we don't get pulled off YouTube. I just thought that maybe the AEW footage should not be on the television right now. Thank you for that, Robbie. Problem solved.
Now my background is boring. No one has anything to look at when I'm talking now, except for this. You have done a disservice to the entire NoDQ Galaxy.
I'm excited to have Jargo on for the very first time with us, changing things up with the dynamic of the NoDQ review. And tonight is basically the calm before the storm. Of course, Rampage is coming up with a rumored debut. By the way, Vice, I think you have a great idea. WWE should totally do this. They should fly out Baron Corbin to Chicago and have a WWE camera crew outside the United Center and have him try to get a job with AEW because he's that desperate. Or try to sell the Money in the Bank briefcase to an AEW fan.
There you go, man. That would be I would pop for that. That would be great. Why do we not work there?
Sell it to Michael Nakazawa.
There you go.
Dude.
I'd pay money for Michael Nakazawa versus Roman Reigns.
Oh my God.
We already got a couple of super chats here, so that is much appreciated. Matt Phillips review sent in $5. I guess we could answer this real quick. He says, who would win in their prime, Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart? I would say Kurt Angle because he kind of won a gold medal, and as great as Bret Hart was, he was not an Olympic gold medalist.
Well, not only did he win a gold medal, he did it under strenuous circumstances, I've been told.
Jargo, would you agree with me? If that match was at a SummerSlam, I'd go with Bret Hart.
If it's at SummerSlam, Mr. Bret Hart, yeah, Mr. SummerSlam, you betcha. I guess it kind of depends on when it's going to happen, right? Like both of them in their prime, but like when is this happening? Like who's booking it? Where's it going to happen at? You know, because like if we're talking about like 1997 WWF, I'm thinking Bret Hart.
In their prime, New Japan.
Ooh, I got to go with Kurt Angle, the illegitimate IWGP World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
And we do have a $2 super chat from Psycho Jet Black. He says, what was the worst Wrestle Kingdom main event? Well, we'll throw that over to Jargo. He'll be the one that can answer that one of the four of us. So,
I'm interested.
Jargo, what do you think?
Wow, the worst Wrestle Kingdom main event.
off the top of your head.
And no pressure, but you represent all of us.
Yeah, right. You know what? I'll go with a very unpopular opinion. And I will take the year that they pushed Tetsuya Naito down the card and headlined with Shinsuke Nakamura as the IWGP Intercontinental Champion versus AJ Styles.
Wow.
It was a fantastic match, but it definitely did some damage to the heavyweight scene inside of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
That's a good point. Great point. I mean, because you can say your Intercontinental title is important, like it used to be in WWE, but you still have to have the king of all titles, which is usually the World Championship. So I like that answer.
Yeah, we have the Cleaver Colin Andrew in the chat room. We got Steve-O in the chat room. Some of the No DQ review regulars are here in the chat room. We appreciate that. Helping out with the moderation. Mr. Tito's here. I still got to make him a moderator. I keep forgetting to do that, but he's here. He will have his hot takes. Virtue, let's go ahead and get this rolling.
All right, topic number 1. And Jargo, I am going to start with you since this is your debut on the panel. But thoughts on Christian Cage becoming the Impact World Champion on AEW Rampage's debut on TNT, and it's a few weeks or whenever before they're going to wrestle again at All Out, where Kenny Omega will defend the AEW World title against Christian. What's going on here? This way to give away a main event on TV. Thoughts?
Does anybody actually believe that they're going to headline All Out with Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage?
That's a good point. So when you say that, you think that'll be like an opener maybe or something?
I don't think that match is going to happen. I don't
Really?
believe that match is going to happen at All Out. I just, nothing against Christian, but I just don't see him headlining your second biggest show of the year opposite of Kenny Omega for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. I think this is
How did they get out of it?
Well, you can take Christian out. I mean, I feel like all of these things that we're kind of talking about tonight all kind of go together. Like, okay, let's come up with a scenario where Christian Cage ends up getting the ever-loving crap beat out of him by the Elite. Oh, wait, that actually happened last night, right? So Christian Cage can't compete at All Out. Can't do it.
Wow.
He's injured. So then Tony Khan's got to find another opponent for Kenny Omega on short notice. We might have to look outside of AEW and bring somebody into the company to headline against Kenny Omega in Chicago. I think I might be able to come up with a name or two for that.
Well, stay tuned for the main event because I'm sure you'll be bringing that part of your conversation back up. And also, by the way, people, our main event tonight will be what's the best ways to bring Punk and Daniel Bryan into AEW if they indeed do show up there. And Jargo has an interesting one on CM Punk for tomorrow night on Rampage, but you will have to stay tuned till later in the show to get that. So, Aaron, I'm going to come over to you now on this one because I saw a super chat pop in there.
Yeah, that was from good old JM Jeff Meacham. He sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. He says, got to get back to packing. Just wanted to make sure I reached out to Robbie. Aaron, please hit me up tonight regarding simulcasting on Saturday. Have fun, guys. Hashtag sorry off topic. Hashtag worse than TJS. Well, thanks for putting me on the spot, Jeff.
Well, I'm thinking like DMs on that kind of stuff, but he did throw money out there. So, okay.
Well, thank you,
I appreciate
Jeff.
it, man. We'll talk.
All right. Well, I just want to make the peace between Jeff and Robbie. So if that happens, then Jeff, we can definitely talk about how the streaming is going to go on Saturday night. Jeff's going to be there in Las Vegas for SummerSlam, and I'm sure he'll want to get on at some point to talk about all the events from that. But anyways, Christian Cage, I think the match is going to happen. I think it's going to be title versus title. I think that was the whole point of Christian winning. So there would be more interest in the match rather than just some random title match at All Out. Now you actually have two championships on the line. And I felt like Christian built up some momentum finally. When he debuted in AEW, it felt kind of lackluster. He was just there. But then when he won the title, people reacted to it. People were happy for him. And I'm fine with it being on the card for the title. But to me, that's not going to be the big attraction of All Out. there's another match, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a few minutes. But I'm happy for Christian, and I'm fine with them doing this match at All Out. And people are going to buy the pay-per-view regardless. So to me, it doesn't really matter. Anyways, Vice, what do you think?
Well,
Vice.
before you go, Robbie, I just got to point out, if you want to see one of the saddest moments in all of professional wrestling, 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, when they announced Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega, and the crowd started chanting CM Punk.
Right.
Christian looked like he just got ran over by a truck.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but that was just wrong place at the wrong time. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, how about Kenny Omega versus Braun Strowman?
Okay.
I still think he's going back to WWE. I really do.
Yeah. For Braun, I do too. Robbie, good for Christian. He was the Impact or the NWA champ, whatever it was back then when he was in TNA. So he gets a little bit of that back, and good for him. But yeah, like Jargo said, and Aaron and I said this a couple weeks ago, we felt bad, like when he got the CM Punk chance, when Kenny Omega was cutting that promo. And that's what happens when this stuff leaks. Like, we'll talk about how this news of CM Punk leaked and maybe why it got out there. But what's your take here with Christian?
Well, my opinion is okay. It reminds me of this. They gave Christian Cage the TNA title, which is fine. When I was about 7 years old, my baseball team, I think it was the first year after T-ball, we lost every game. But at the end of the season, we still got a trophy. And that's what I feel like Christian going to AEW is like, hey, he got his trophy. It didn't really earn it. Doesn't really make sense, but he got it. So, hooray, good for him. You can put it on his shelf. Yeah, I kind of agree with what Dude was saying earlier, too. I feel like this is just like something bigger is coming, I think, with this, too. And that's where I think you could have a certain couple of guys come back. It just doesn't feel like it really means much. I don't think this is what I think. I think they had a lot of plans for Christian. And then maybe a few weeks back, big plans changed when a few people became available, and they're kind of just discarding him already. And I feel kind of bad for him because it's weird too if you think about it. Edge is kind of in the same boat. Like Edge went back to WWE, had this triumphant return, and he's just like loses all the time. He lost his title, and Christian just won a title, and he's probably going to lose it again. What's going on with DNC, man? I don't know, but I didn't really care. Don't really care. I think it's leading to something bigger. No one will remember this in 10 years. They'll be like, oh, hey, remember that time Christian won the title just so he could drop it and Kenny Omega could have his big win at their big pay-per-view because he's a EVP.
Now, Dwayne Atkinson sent in a $2 super chat, says, who didn't think Christian wasn't going to win the title? Which one? I thought he was going to win the Impact title, but AEW title, I don't think anybody believes that there's a chance of him winning the title. And TJS sent in a $5 super chat, says, it's CM Punk Eve, so don't forget to leave some Pepsi and ice cream bars. Jargo, TJS likes to come on here and be a comedian, FYI. He says, haven't been so excited about something this much in a while. Off topic, sorry. And that's the other thing too, Jargo. TJS always sends in random super chats. We ask people to stick to the topic and try to send something that's relevant to what we're talking about. But of course, TJS and Jeff,
who's TJS?
Do whatever they want.
Like, I don't know. He must have been. There's so many people in NoDQ Galaxy. I got to filter some of them out. Anyway, go ahead, Jargo.
Somebody made a comment in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't remember names. I'm awful with names.
That's okay.
About how AEW is treating the Impact title like the NXT championship, and the way the WWE treats that. That would be true if, they weren't exposing the Impact championship to 8 times the audience of people that watch Impact.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, and NXT's kind of had a bounce back the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's where their brand is, right? 750,000 viewers. It's just where it's at. They've always had their show on the network, on Peacock or the network the next day. I think that saves some people from watching it live. But neither here nor there. Back to Edge and Christian, Robbie. In defense of them, they're in their late 40s, and they're just happy to get one more last run and do it in front of fans now, right? So that's probably, the passion, the love of the game. I don't know. But we will move on from that topic, and we will go over to some WWE Summerslam and NXT weekend. Now, we did the predictions. Aaron and I have the SummerSlam, and I think we did quick picks on NXT. That's up on NoDQ.com. So we're not going to go in depth. However, here's my question to you guys. Robbie, I'll start with you this time. Between the two shows this weekend, NXT, which is on Sunday, and SummerSlam is on Saturday, and Jargo was telling me that's probably because the venue where SummerSlam is, the stadium, might have had something going on Sunday, maybe a Raider or something like that probably happened to have them do that Saturday, and hence NXT is on Sunday. So, Robbie, not counting Cena versus Reigns, because that's the big match this weekend in the WWE bubble, what match this weekend from the WWE brands are you looking forward to most, and why? And if you don't know, you have to pick something. There's got to be something.
So, yeah,
Goldberg Lashley.
It is that. It is Goldberg Lashley, because I think that intrigues me the most, because it's one of those weird things where I'm like, is Vince really going to do this again? Is he going to do this to Bobby Lashley, who has had a great run? They already took the Hurt business away from him, and we don't really know why that happened. Hasn't really panned out for many of the people involved, if any. But yeah, I'm curious, is Goldberg going to do the job again? Because we're at a weird spot with Goldberg.
Yeah.
He's lost a lot. And, he has that nostalgia value, but man, you keep bringing him back and he keeps losing over and over. At what point are you going to be like, I mean, people are always like, why is this guy getting a match? But if he keeps losing, it's going to be like, dude, why the hell does Goldberg show up after losing 6 title shots in a row? And why does he keep getting put on these big events? And we all know it's because he draws money, but I feel like the fans at a certain point are just going to not care. I've not cared about Goldberg for a long time. Also, and I want to say this. When we saw Goldberg's stupid shirtless son a couple years ago, I hated Goldberg. I never wanted to see him again. And now I saw that little punk ass on TV. It's just like, dude, I don't want to see Goldberg's stupid family. I already have to deal with him. I don't want to see the rest of that.
He's bigger now. He's going through puberty.
Hey, man, good for him. I hate kids on TV. I hate.
He's already bigger than Marco Stunt.
Well, Marco's Stunt is a lot of words that would get you demonetized that I really don't want to do to you right now. If anyone wants to talk about Marco Stunt, we could do that offline.
Robbie, you have to pick. You have to have one of these guys on your roster as a promoter. Dominic Mysterio or Goldberg's son Gage.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Assuming he wants to be a wrestler. I'm making you pick.
I mean,
or
one of them is an awkward teenager.
I'll throw Marco Stunt in there as well.
I would have Marco Stunt in there. I would have fun with that, dude. Like, it would be like Spike Dudley at ECW, but worse. He's the guy that you just throw off the top of the Titantron through some stuff. You do basically treat him like Mick Foley and Spike Dudley, and that's pretty much how you would use them for that.
All right, so you went with Lashley and Goldberg, and fair enough, because I know you're a big Lashley fan.
I'm a huge Lashley fan, and there's intrigue in that.
He's still the WWE champion, and I mean, a win over Goldberg would be great for him because he would continue that run, but there could be a little doubt. Right?
We all wanted the Lesnar, though. I mean, at least I did. I'm not going to speak for you guys. I wanted to see Lesnar.
I do too.
And Lashley, and I'm hoping that still can happen at WrestleMania, but we'll see.
It's basically you have Lashley versus Goldberg. That's the Wish version of Lashley.
Yeah, pretty much.
If Goldberg wins the title, where does it go from there? Like, they have no contenders.
I mean, the only thing they can do is Big E cashes in same night, because Goldberg only has 2 dates left on his deal. Mm-hmm. He said this himself on the WWE podcast, and he only does 2 matches a year. The only thing that they could do if Goldberg wins is Big E comes out at SummerSlam and cashes in. Otherwise, it would make no sense for Goldberg to win the title.
And say they amended that and gave him some cash to do another match. Nobody's going to want to see a build promoted match with Goldberg defending his title against somebody, because then they're like, why? So yes, Aaron, if he wins, I agree. He lose it to Big E right away. So that's kind of why I think I went with Lashley on the predictions, because I think Vito tried to convince me to pick Goldberg on his show, and I think I said okay, but then I talked myself out of it when we did the SummerSlam predictions. Okay, Aaron, before I go to Jargo, I saw Super Chat come in, so do you want to take care of those?
Sure. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 Super Chat says, rank Dominic, Hook, Marco Stunt, and Gage Goldberg. Well, I would go with Dominic first because he's been doing well on SmackDown. Then I'd probably go with Gage Goldberg, and then Marco Stunt, and then Hook. Hook hasn't really done much of anything yet, so
let's Hook.
at least Marco Stunt does a good job of getting beat up by the bigger wrestlers.
He took a big bump this last week.
Yeah, Hook should probably be doing the same thing, taking some bumps for the bigger stars. He just stands there, it seems like, and interferes in matches. We've yet to really see what he can do. So Gage, just because he's out there on Raw standing next to the legendary Bill Goldberg, he gets second place for now.
Hell, remember when we had, we talk about like the Marco stunts. Remember when we had Colin Delaney in the late 2000s there coming in, getting beat up? I think, yeah, see, been there, done that. WWE's always been there, done that. All right, Jargo. Not counting Cena versus Reigns, the two big WWE events this weekend, which match are you looking forward to the most? Maybe you got a tie. I don't know.
Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, Takeover.
Okay, why?
The rivalry between Cole and O'Reilly, if you are a independent wrestling fan, Ring of Honor fan, these two guys have been fighting for years, former tag team partners who have come together and fought back and forth probably a half a dozen times. It's basically, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But this feels like a conclusion. This feels, no matter what happens coming out of this feels like the end of Adam Cole and NXT, whether he shows up on Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite. So this feels like the conclusion of this Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly thing. And knowing these two guys are going to want to do something pretty special. 2 out of 3 falls. I think it's going to be pretty epic.
Now, I had to do some thinking about this because my whole weekend's built up over Cena and Reigns. I've already called it the potential match of the year for sports entertainment type of fans, okay? Jargo, I'm not comparing it to New Japan matches. You know what I mean when I say that. There's some interesting things that we talked about on the predictions, right? We expect Reigns to win and to dominate because Cena is still tied up in Hollywood. They're building the bloodline, the Reigns and the potential Rock thing. We'll see what happens there. But with Ric Flair recently leaving and John Cena's one title win away from being the WWE recognized number 17 time, WWE likes to be petty and stick it. Could that be something that happens? So there's a lot of intrigue with that match, but I can't pick that match for this topic. So you know what match I went with? It's Edge versus Seth Rollins. And I say that because, Robbie, we talked about an aging Christian, and it's like the participation award. Edge doesn't have, any titles around. He's back to work with younger guys, have that last run to go out on his own terms. Rollins gives good to great matches. I mean, he does. I know a lot of people don't like this current thing he's doing necessarily since the Shield kind of broke up, and he did the cult thing with Buddy Murphy. Now he's coming out in the outlandish suits. It looks like a video game character. There's some type of development going on here with Rollins, and he could become a big baby face in the next year at some point. We don't know. Maybe feud for a title again. And I think this match here would be Rollins putting Edge over, right, to give I know you're supposed to pass the torch, but Rollins isn't that type of guy that needs that win. Right. I'd like to see Rollins give the old veteran a great win on the big stage in a very good match. And so that's why I'm intrigued for this match, because I think it could be one of those show stealers, even though I say Reigns and Cena would be a potential match of the year. It's just something. Does everybody remember the Austin HBK WrestleMania 14 match? It wasn't a very good match. Michaels' back was blown up. I remember watching Michaels come through the tunnel when they showed it, and they were doing the drums, the boop, boop, boop before the DX band played, and he was kissing the ring. He knew he could have went out there and effed himself. And remember, he didn't want to put Austin over, but he did. He ended up being professional, and he did. And I'm not comparing this to that, but you have a Edge with the bad neck. He's going to retire soon at some point. You got Rollins. I don't know, man. This match, I'm intrigued by. Aaron, what's yours?
I agree with you 100% as far as Edge and Seth Rollins goes. That would be my second most anticipated match. I am looking forward to Goldberg and Lashley just because I'm intrigued to see what they do. But I think Edge and Rollins will have a really good match, and I do think that Edge will get a win here. He does need it. He lost his last 2 pay-per-view matches. Rollins can can lose. It's okay. Rollins could always move back to Raw or turn babyface at some point to feud with Roman Reigns later this year. I'm sure Finn Balor will get into the mix with Reigns first, and then you could always turn Rollins. So Rollins has other options. He can do other things after SummerSlam, but I think for Edge, if he loses a third time, it's really going to take away from his stock in WWE. Even though he is a legend, I think it's important for him to pick up a win at this pay-per-view. Matt Helms sent in a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Matt. Matt is a regular here in the chat room, and we very much appreciate everybody that's tuning in tonight. Thank you for watching us. Impact's on right now, so we have direct competition, but we were here first.
Similar viewers too. That's crazy.
He said hello, by the way, in that super chat, didn't he?
I don't think he left a comment. Oh, he did say hello, everyone. So
hello, like Eugene. Hello.
Oh my.
We appreciate that, and again, thank you everyone for tuning in and watching us. Maybe some people have Impact on at the same time, but either way, we very much are grateful for everybody that's watching us. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic.
So, guys, we have a little bit of time here before the main event, so I'm going to throw this in as a little buffer. Was not in the scripted topics that I sent you. Jargo, how do you feel? Did you keep up with the whole MJF and Jericho thing on how they and the way they finished it? What do you think on how that all ended?
I think it's great. The way that Jericho is kind of selling it, it's going to be time for him to take a little bit of time off, reevaluate, recreate, see where he wants to go from here. He puts over MJF huge. I think you've got a legitimate main event contender in MJF, or if nothing else, a feature performer who I think could be going up against one of these other guys that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. I like MJF. He's a real throwback because he doesn't do anything flashy in the ring. He doesn't do anything that you want to cheer. He has a very punchable face. He has absolutely no redeeming qualities as a human being whatsoever. He's a great old school heel. It's something that's been missing in the pro wrestling business for a very, very long time. I love where MJF is at right now, and you got to credit Jericho in this feud, this story. I mean, this thing started, a year and a half ago? And we finally got to the conclusion of it
together for a while. Now,
and I think putting MJF was going over was the smart move. Jericho can go tour and do whatever he wants to do. And then when he comes back, he's repackaged and refreshed.
Yep. Now, Robbie, I'm going to give Tony Khan a benefit of the doubt here. He gave me Dan Lambert promo last night, and the way they booked that with Jericho, where he couldn't come out to his entrance, knowing that those marks, those fans, were going to all sing it. So MJF, who came out first, would be in the ring being pissed off that the entrance song was still playing because the fans were singing. I'm going to give props to that. That created a pretty cool moment. What's your thoughts on how this all ended?
I didn't really care for it. I thought so. The end result was great. The ideas put in place were great. The execution was sloppy. That's basically how I put it. Like the entrance thing, we all knew it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. It was fine. My wife walked in the room and she's like, "Why doesn't he have music?" And I had to explain it to her, but she's never really watched wrestling, so it was hard. And then she's like, "Why can't he do that move?" I'm like, "Oh, he's not allowed to do it because he banned it." And he's like, "Why can he make that decision?" So she's like asking questions. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really know. It doesn't make sense. You just go with it." But like, I didn't really care for the end of the match. There was the hit with the bat, and then the referee's back was turned. Why didn't he just use the Judas effect? Why didn't he just do it? I know he's, MJF's the heel in that situation. It was just like that last 15 seconds of the match, I felt just really just undercut what they were trying to do. And unfortunately, this is where everyone loves me. I just don't think Chris Jericho has it anymore. I think he could work a style more like MJF. He should not be doing what he's doing, because unless you have those rose-tinted goggles on, if you're watching it objectively, not, oh, it's the legend Chris Jericho. If you look at him in a vacuum of just a pro wrestler, Chris Jericho, outside of his character, is bad right now. He's in the worst shape of his life. Everything he does feels half-hearted in the ring. if you don't look at him as Lionheart Chris Jericho, your childhood favorite wrestler, someone that you respected a long time, and then you compare him to what Edge is doing, what Christian is doing, and some of these other veterans, man, I think Jericho is the worst veteran in professional wrestling right now. And I love the character of Chris Jericho. So,
Robbie, big Jericho fan here. I've said that. Mr. Tito has said that. We've noticed it. Maybe he's working us all. So if anyone
would do it, it would be him.
Because then he takes time off, and then he does DDP Yoga, and he comes back like WWE Chris Jericho. And it's like, oh my God, what happened? He's back.
And he doesn't even need to be that. It just comes off like he cares a lot less now than he did a few years back. The passion, I don't really see it. Again, spots are not a story, and making these spots and executing them half-assed to me is not exactly. Dude, look at this guy. Dr. NXT Scorpio has it right. I was expecting like a code breaker to happen. Instead, he just stood there. I don't know. It's just I like the idea on paper. I just think someone needs to rein in Jericho and make him just get back to what made him Chris Jericho and stop trying to do shit and prove to everyone that he's 20 years old. We all know that he's not. He just needs to tone down that style, and he could still do great things in this business.
Well said. Over to you, Aaron.
And plus, why would Jericho care so much about getting DQ'd? Just hit him with the move.
Exactly.
If he gets DQ'd, he's there to kick his ass and get his payback.
Even as a face, Aaron, would you say this? Even as a face, the fans would have blew up if he would have hit that behind the ref's back. Hit him and then watch the heel get his, and they could have had a run in and still had the same type of ending. But it just made everyone in the ring look stupid, and that's something really pulls me out.
Yeah, I mentioned the Randy Orton Shawn Michaels match from the 2007 Survivor Series. I thought they did that a lot better. In that match, Shawn could not use the super kick, and he went for it, and he just hesitated, and it was like a split-second hesitation, and Orton caught him with an RKO. So they did it very quickly. It was very well executed in that match. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, Chris Jericho would be better if he lost weight.
It's not even that, though. He just needs to stop doing the lion salt and stop doing some of that really high athletic things that he was trying to do off the top rope and things like that.
Right.
Jericho needs to become Sting.
Yes.
There you go.
I mean, yes, actually, and let's ask this. If everyone in the chat could just give your opinion, who do you think is the better wrestler in 2021? Is it Sting or is it Jericho? Because I think that's a legitimate question right now. I say Sting.
I think it's about half a dozen to one, 6 of the other. It's just that you're seeing Jericho way more.
Yeah, that's fair.
You got to Twitter poll that too, Robbie.
I will do that.
Aaron, you want to add anything to how the MJF saga with Jericho ended?
No, I mean, I liked it overall, but it was very noticeable at the end with the referee's back turned and Jericho not hitting the move. But other than that, I enjoyed it, and I'm loving MJF, and I'm ready. I got more to say about MJF because it ties into the main event topic. So let's get to it.
And that's where we're going to go. It's time. Yes, folks, it's only 8:31. We could be talking about this topic for 15, 20, 30 minutes. So, Robbie, I'm going to come back over to you here. Here's our main event. So we know the rumors of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk going to AEW. And, I hate when stuff like this leaks, but I get it. It's the build-up hype. Gosh, Jargo and I were talking about this. There's so many different scenarios on what you could do right and wrong with this. Jargo, sit back like a caged animal there. I'm going to go to Robbie first. What's the best way, Robbie, for both Daniel Bryan and CM Punk to come into AEW in your opinion? And we know tomorrow night, Rampage in Chicago, and I think Dynamite next Wednesday too, right, Aaron?
No, they're in Milwaukee next Wednesday.
Well,
and then the Wednesday after that, they're in Chicago.
Okay, so it's still in the vicinity. Robbie, take it away.
I think it's really, really simple. I think the reason that Christian Cage has a title on him is so Daniel Bryan can take that title. And then I think you have another title that can be taken by CM Punk off of Kenny Omega. And I think then you have two guys who are extremely over with all fans, pretty much almost household names, not quite, but they're literally right there. Right. And that gives you a lot of eyes and a lot of dream matches. And then you can start knocking those dream matches out 2 at a time, because what do we see and what do we know about AEW is they want so bad to be 1997 WCW. What did 1997 WCW do? They hot-shotted every single show until they ran out of stuff. I see Tony Khan going that route, and that's why I think you see Christian Cage, something happens, and you're going to see him and Daniel Bryan start feuding. You're going to see that title go on Daniel Bryan. You're going to see Omega, and you're going to see Punk, and I think you're going to see Punk walk away with it, and they just start creating dream matches. They just start having big things, and I think that's enough to get them through 3 years, and if they're smart and they start building their young talent, I mean, honestly, and I know people know that I'm not the biggest fan of AEW. You get Punk and Bryan, you start doing some of these matches, you're going to draw eyeballs. I'm going to be very interested in seeing that. And they're, again, the Defenders, this is no offense, they are like 3 superstars away from legitimately having a chance to dethrone WWE from the ratings that they have right now. So we just have to wait and see. But
gosh, it's still a little trickier than that, I think. But now they've been trending downwards. Momentum. Yeah. See, momentum goes both ways. It goes forward and it goes backwards. I don't think this is – Aaron's going to be like, wait a minute here. What am I listening to? I don't think Dynamite going down a little bit the last couple weeks is necessarily a bad thing because it gives Punk – Bryan, right, is part of this too, but the eyeballs are really on CM Punk because he's been gone for so long. It gives him a little cushion now by being back under 1 million because now you know CM Punk, there's some cushion to pop a number now, whereas if they were – 1.1, 1.2, Punk comes back if it didn't change much. So I think this is good for Punk that they've kind of declined a little bit the last couple of weeks. And let's be honest, people are just kind of waiting it out. They're going to tune in when they hear these guys are showing up. Jargo. We got 2, Daniel Bryan, obviously one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. You got CM Punk, maybe the greatest promo of all time. You had some interesting theories here. Take it away. Take as much time as you need.
I have a lot of different theories, and there's so many different directions that this thing could go. But the one that I am really leaning towards right at the moment is, as far as Punk goes, coming in on Friday, I don't necessarily like it, and I don't think it's what I would do, but I think they're going to put him opposite of Jon Moxley. This past Wednesday on Dynamite, we had Moxley dropping some hints about how everybody's coming to AEW now, and he starts naming off a bunch of names. I look at that main event, Daniel Garcia versus Jon Moxley, in the main event of Rampage, and I'm just like, okay, something going down here. Like, this is not the way this is going to go. And that seems like a logical place that you could bring Punk in. I'm not sure that I like that pairing though. I still feel like somehow, some way we're going to get to Punk versus Omega. Maybe we do Punk versus Moxley as a kind of default number 1 contender match once Christian has been taken out of the equation. That part I'm kind of shaky on. As far as what they could do and what we talked about on Virtue's Rage. And I'm not sure how this would go over. So Moxley wins the match versus Daniel Garcia. And as Rampage is getting ready to go off the air, Cult of Personality hits. Punk walks out on the stage and says, I'll see you Wednesday on Dynamite. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Rampage is only 1 hour. Right?
If that's it, how are people going to respond to this? You know what I mean? I don't know. You only get 1 reappearance of CM Punk, and you're doing it at 10 o'clock on the East Coast on a Friday night where TV shows go to die inside of the TV business. The cards don't seem right outside of being in Chicago. I think this is just going to be a tease for Dynamite.
Jargo, what if they do that, right? Punk comes out at the end, like you suggested. And, you know, Rampage is only an hour show. And remember I talked about they want a surprise, but it kind of already leaked. And, you know, having Rampage in Chicago, it's not announcing him. If he shows up in any capacity, well, there's your surprise. But really it's about billing him for an upcoming show. What if they did exactly what you said, but he sat Indian style right in the middle of the stage and did his, not an exact pipe bomb, but that style? Would that deliver in any different way? That's what made CM Punk this household name. What if he did something like that?
It's interesting because I don't know the best way to bring in CM Punk. CM Punk is going to come in. It's going to be a huge pop. He's going to be super over as a babyface. It's going to be in Chicago. People are going to lose their minds. I kind of want to see Punk come walking out in a suit and tell everybody to kiss his ass. He took the big payday. He's coming in for the main event at All Out against Kenny Omega. I'm pushing everybody else down the card and be like the biggest hypocrite in the history of pro wrestling. That's kind of what I want from CM Punk right now.
Gotcha. Now, what about Daniel Bryanson? Boy, I got to get used to saying Bryan Danielson here very soon. What about the American Dragon?
He's the one I bring in opposite of MJF. That to me is where MJF goes after this feud with Jericho. I really, really like the matchup between Danielson and MJF from an in-ring perspective. That I think would be a good launching point for the American Dragon. But the match that I really want to see, it's going to take a little bit more build up. But I bring him in, I put him opposite of Pac. And I have him work his way to a hair versus mask match against Penta. That's the match I really want to see.
Gotcha. Wow. And there's so many possibilities. I'm sure the chat's going to start chiming in here soon. Aaron, just real quick. So I talked myself into it. How would I bring in Punk? Well, if it has to be Rampage tomorrow night in Chicago, do exactly kind of what Jargo suggested. Moxley standing in the middle of the ring. Cult of Personality comes out. The place goes nuts. Give Punk enough time to sit Indian style and cut his promo or whatever he did like in WWE, but say obviously up-to-date stuff. Right. Bryan Danielson. It took me a while to get John Moxley down from Dean Ambrose too. That I can't really necessarily predict. That's a little trickier. I think he's enjoying life with his family. I could actually see him debut like it All Out, like where nobody expects it, or maybe they just say Daniel Bryan is all elite or Bryan Danielson is all elite.
I think Bryan's got to wait.
To me.
Brian's got to wait until like the New York show at Arthur Ashe, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
And when is that?
That's like September, towards the end of September, right?
Okay, so there's some time.
Well, and I think that's just because of the no compete clause. I think he's still got a while that he's got to wait.
So there you go. That makes it easier.
I believe his contract expired. He's free to show up whenever. I think they're just saving him.
Neither here nor there. I feel Bryan is later. With all these shows in Chicago and that area, this is CM Punk's time. They want Daniel Bryan to also have his time. I think that will be later. Aaron, your turn.
All right. Well, regarding Daniel Bryan Danielson, I think we're going to see him at the New York show. You know, CM Punk's going to come in first, and we're going to have several weeks of people talking about Punk. So there's no reason for Bryan to come in. Although some people have talked about the idea of Punk and Bryan being like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall coming in kind of together and doing some type of invasion angle. I don't know if they're going to necessarily do that, but there may be some tie-in. And speaking of Punk and Bryan, Psycho Jet Black sent in $2, says, how long until we get Bryan versus Punk on pay-per-view? If they do it, I don't think it's going to happen right away, because I think the best idea is to have Bryan against AEW guys and Punk against AEW guys, and maybe eventually you can have those two do a match in an AEW ring, but you don't need to do it right now. And Dwayne Atkinson sent in a $5 super chat, says, all this talk about Punk and Bryan, any predictions on when, not if, we will see AJ Lee? Interesting question. I think that will come down to whether she wants to get back to wrestling or not. Seems like she's happy doing her own thing, being out of the business. But if she gets the bug to come back, I could certainly see AEW as a possibility. I would love to see her back, but not sure if that's something that she wants to do at this point. Any other comments about AJ Lee? Any thoughts on her?
She'll be in the crowd, I'm sure, on Friday if Punk walks out and the camera will pan over and they'll talk about her. But I from everything that I've seen, I can't imagine that she's looking to get back into the business. But she might come out with CM Punk.
I think she could have a one match thing into her, like Trish Stratus comes back
with
to WWE for SummerSlam. I don't know.
I mean, the only worthwhile female talent on AEW's roster right now. I mean, you got Thunder Rosa, you got Britt Baker. After that, there's a pretty significant drop. So I don't know really where you would put her.
It all
I don't think there's anyone on the AEW roster in the women's division that really is even remotely in that stratosphere of AJ Lee.
And to respond to Big G, I did not miss your super chat. I was just trying to get to it. I just said Big G. He says, "Sup, fellas." He sent in $10. Thank you, Big G. He says, "Sup, fellas. Rampage can't wait. 2 weeks until the biggest party of the fall," which is, of course, his wedding that's coming up.
I got a bone to pick with Big G here.
Okay.
He was all about Shayna Baszler, right? An NXT women's champion, dominant. She got called up to the main roster. She had that impressive Elimination Chamber win. She should have beat Becky at WrestleMania in the pandemic era there. You know, obviously with Becky going off because she was pregnant. Had they known, maybe that would have made more sense. But it's not her fault, Big G. The WWE chose to kind of throw her away. Now, yeah, she had a tag title run, but it was with Nia Jax. But to see you, Big G, travel to AEW, get your pictures with Britt Baker, who has a title, shame on you for throwing Shayna to the curb just because of how WWE booked her, right? Like, if I like a wrestler and somebody's getting, it doesn't mean they're not my favorite anymore. So you got to show, and I'm not, throwing shade at you, Big G, for liking Britt Baker, although she is a heel. But you need to go back and reevaluate your status as a Shayna Baszler fan and maybe start showing her some love when she needs it the most, when WWE doesn't book her that way. Would anybody agree with me as a wrestling fan? Anyway.
Yeah, you got to stay loyal, just like Big
He
G
hasn't been on in a while.
To the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why not stay loyal to Shayna Baszler? Power Packers 90 sent in a $2 super chat, says, "Going to AEW in Milwaukee on Wednesday. Can't wait." I'm wondering if they're going to do something with CM Punk there as far as like a pipe bomb promo. See, here's what's interesting. I think people are expecting Punk to do that type of promo where he sits down and starts ranting about the state of wrestling. But how are they going to do that with a 1 hour show? I don't think I would have announced the matches that they did for Rampage just because I think you want to keep people guessing. And now, since they already announced 3 matches, like that's going to take up a good amount of the 1 hour. So how much time is CM Punk going to actually have in the ring? Makes me wonder if they're going to have him just show up at the very end, stand there on the stage, and then you got to tune in Wednesday for the follow-up, and they try to pop the big number for Dynamite. So I could see that happening. And I mentioned this before. I'll say it again. I want to have the show open with Cult of Personality, but instead of Punk, it's MJF coming out there.
Yes.
I know Darby Allin has been teasing the idea of him and CM Punk. And, they could do that match at some point. But I really think with Punk, you gotta have him go in there with somebody big right off the bat and with a heel. Darby Allin is one of the most beloved characters in AEW. If anything, Punk should be helping him. Now, maybe MJF comes out at the start. Darby Allin comes out and challenges MJF for the main event, and somehow they rush those 3 matches, and they do that 4th match, and then at the end, CM Punk comes to the aid of Darby Allin, and maybe MJF is the first opponent for CM Punk at All Out. I would like to see that. I would be very interested in that. MJF versus CM Punk in Chicago at All Out, I think would be a really fun match. And Punk getting a big win over MJF. MJF would be fine losing, but he's coming off that win over Jericho, so he's got some momentum now, and I think that would be a really big match. That's what I would like to see. I think ultimately you want to do the match between CM Punk and Kenny Omega. Maybe they do it at Full Gear, and at some point you want Bryan versus Omega. I think that's another big dream match that people want to see. So it's just a matter of how Tony Khan's going to plan everything out. But yeah, those are the 2 big matches, CM Punk versus Omega and Daniel Bryan versus Omega. But MJF also with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. There's 2 more big matches right there. And then, whoever else you can build up at some point. Maybe CM Punk wins the title. Maybe Bryan wins the title, and eventually Hangman Adam Page comes back and feuds with one of them. There's a lot of different things you can do, but I think you definitely got to do something big right out of the gate. I don't want to see CM Punk wrestling some mid-level guy. I want to see him in there with the top-tier heels in AEW, and who's a better heel right now than MJF? Now,
you want to see CM Punk versus Luchasaurus?
There you go.
Orange Cassidy.
How about this one? Here's
Mimosa match.
There's another part to this equation that evidently everybody has forgotten about. How about this? Punk's standing in the ring and he cuts his promo about how much everything, is great. And he's so happy to be back. And thank you, Chicago. And then Adam Cole lays his ass out with a super kick. Adam Cole is going to be free to do whatever he wants and go wherever he wants effective on Monday. It is not outside of the realm of possibility that Adam Cole could show up to ruin the party. Adam Cole versus CM Punk. That intrigues me greatly as well.
He has a match in WWE on Sunday.
And then he's free to go.
So Wednesday. That's the type of WCW, right? WWF stuff, Aaron, right there.
That's Lex Luger showing up on Nitro. I mean,
or Bray Wyatt. No, Bray Wyatt's got the non-compete, but they could have somebody else show up as a shocker to attack CM Punk. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do. But I would not be surprised if they just have CM Punk show up at the very end of the show and, having the crowd chant his name. And maybe he cuts a promo for the crowd after the cameras go off the air. And then he shows up on Dynamite and they hype it up. CM Punk's going to drop his pipe bomb and they have time to advertise it and try to pop a rating and see if they can
How does the wrestling community react to that, though? Like, is that going to be enough for
Nothing
people?
will be good enough. No, I think with Punk, nothing will be good enough. Because there's going to be some asshole like me that's going to find something wrong with it, or people that are like me and they're going to look for the negative in it and they're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think this is something that's so big. It's like the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah.
Successful, right?
Right.
Good, highly anticipated, but man, overall, it never captured that magic. And that's the thing with today's wrestling fans. They're trying to recapture that attitude era when they were young and wrestling was great. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen again. That's why it's called nostalgia. It reminds you of the past. You'll never feel that way again because you're a soul-crushed adult and your life is over. That's my advice to you.
I think Punk will give us when he does finally talk, he will give us some nice Easter eggs. Like he might blow the kiss. He might wave into the camera and say, "Hi, Cole."
I was thinking that. That should be his first line when he comes out there to say, "Hi, Cole Cabana."
I feel it because that's who he is. So, Aaron, anything else you want to add to that?
No, but OG85 did send in a SAR $10 super chat. Says, "Just wanted to say hi and keep up the good work." Well, we appreciate that, OG85. Did somebody hear a cat? Is there a cat somewhere?
It's my cat. Yeah, she's if I'm doing any kind of recording or I'm on a work call, that's when she decides to sing the song of her people.
Jargo, Aaron likes cats. You got a cat?
I do have a cat. His name is Oswald Cobblepot.
Ooh, was it nearby?
Nice.
He's able to get in the shot or no?
I have no idea where he is.
All right, guys, here's what I'm going to do then. We're going to go around real quick. Robbie, I'm going to start with you. You're at the water cooler on Monday. I know a lot of us work from home and stuff during the pandemic. But we're at the water cooler Monday. We got Rampage Friday, SummerSlam Saturday, NXT Sunday. What's the number one topic if you're talking something wrestling?
I mean, I have to say it's going to be Rampage. It's the biggest. It's the big. I mean, again, as someone who gets constantly told that I do nothing but shit on AEW, AEW is about to have, if it happens, one of the biggest moments in wrestling since Hogan turned heel. Really, I mean, this is one of the biggest things I can think of in my lifetime. So obviously it's going to be Rampage.
Jargo?
Yeah, I got to agree, man. The CM Punk thing is everywhere. That's what everybody wants to talk about, including people that haven't watched wrestling for the better part of a decade are hitting me up going, is CM Punk really going to show up on AEW on Friday night? That's what everybody's going to be talking about come Sunday.
It's hard to go after that. But Aaron, so Punk shows up Friday night Rampage. We see him. He's there. WWE's basically alluded to they're not going to be the rumors. They're not going to be reactionary in any way to CM Punk.
Right.
Okay. So say Saturday night, if Punk comes Friday night, they still have SummerSlam to pull off something, a shocker if they want. John Cena wins number 17. Talk about that at the water cooler Monday. I mean, what do you think?
I don't think John Cena winning the 17th title is going to surpass CM Punk returning to wrestling.
In the wrestling bubble with the marks that care about it. Outside of that, you think somebody's going to care more about CM Punk than John Cena, Hollywood actor in the Suicide Squad?
I think some fans
I don't.
I think some fans that gave up on wrestling are going to come back for this.
Those maybe, but I don't know.
As far as creating new fans, I mean, It depends on how much buzz AEW gets and how they book everything, and if they can get people hooked. That's the big question. Can they do that? Can they get new people wondering, like, what's all this CM Punk stuff about? But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says CM Punk is not bigger than the NWO debut. No, I would not say that, but this is going to be the biggest thing in a while, and I'm really looking forward to how this plays out. SummerSlam, I'm sure, will be a great show, but I'm not expecting a big shock or anything. I don't think they're going to do a big swerve. You know, they could have Big E win the Money in the Bank, maybe, but I'm not expecting any big surprises.
Aaron, can you put more cameras? I know he didn't super chat. Put his thing up there and read it to me, please.
Okay, he says, Virtue needs to stop calling others a mark since he's the biggest mark in the bubble.
Low camera, you're a mark. Okay, that's all I wanted to do.
Big Ray Hernandez is here. Is that my boy, Dr. Jargo? #over.
True story. Big Ray Hernandez gave me my first shot as a podcaster. So shout out to Big Ray. Appreciate you.
Nice. You did an excellent job, Jargo,
Yes.
and I knew you would. All right, we're ready to close the show. So this is where we go around and we do our plugs. And when it comes back to Aaron, sometimes we don't get to leave on time because of the NoDQ Galaxy, but we will see. Maybe they will be forgiving to me tonight and we'll be able to close the show. So, Jargo, great debut. I'm glad you were here. Love to have you on again at some point. Go ahead and do your plugs.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me anytime. Just give me 24 hours notice so I can rearrange my sleep schedule. Find me across social media platforms at NotJargo, hittingthemarks.com, michaeljargo.com, destinopod.com if you want the latest in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm basically a podcast whore. Everybody kind of gets their turn with me. So thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
All right. Good having you on. And as always, Virtue and Vice. It's always a great combo here. So, Robbie Vice, your turn.
I'm the opposite, man. I am nowhere. I am not to be seen. I am not to be heard. I am pulled out of a dirt well every now and then to be on one of these NoDQ podcasts. And eventually, every once in a while too, I do some stuff with that big video. But yeah, I mean, follow me on Twitter if you want. I don't really care anymore. At the Robbie Vice. I'm sure you'll hate all of my opinions on wrestling. You will get very sick of my fan goggles with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Browns this year. And you're just not going to like anything I say. So follow me if you want. If not, whatever. Thanks for having me on, guys. Looking forward to being back soon.
Good having you on as always. Now over to you, Aaron Riff.
Well, we have a comment here. We actually have a few super chats.
Of course we do.
We have a comment here. Top right guy has a huge room. Big baller.
This is my office. I have a finished basement in my house, and this is technically my office. This is where my computer is. I do all my work here. I have a table back there for board games. I have my movie posters. I have my giant 1980. God, it's like a weatherman. I have my giant 1989 Michelangelo next to my TV back there, which is also pretty sweet. But yeah, this is my office. This is where I literally spend most of my life because I am a salary slave to a giant cellular company.
All right then. And I'm still trying to get Big Vito to be on one of these videos with Jeff Meacham. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It might be wishful thinking.
You'd probably be more lucky to get Robbie on the show with Jeff.
I'd be on that show.
Well, let's make it happen then. I'm begging Big Vito to come on with Jeff Meacham and let's have a nice civil discussion between.
Can I moderate it?
I'm fine with that.
Let's do it.
I think people would be very interested in tuning in for that. Anyways, we do have a few more super chats here. This is NoDQ After Dark, where we get some random super chats at the end. Psycho Jet Black says the biggest mark in wrestling is Mean Mark Calloway. That technically may be correct. I can't think of a bigger mark in wrestling as far as height goes. Can you guys think of a taller mark?
Nope, not off the top of my head.
So yeah, must be Mean Mark. And Matt Helms sent in a $5 super chat. So kind of on topic with everything here. Says, what's your favorite CM Punk match? Well, I got mine off the top of my head. Mine is a show that, in my opinion, was one of the better SummerSlams in history. SummerSlam 2013, CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. I was there at Staples Center one of my all-time favorite matches that I've seen in person. My all-time favorite is WrestleMania 21 at Staples Center, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. But Brock Lesnar and CM Punk is a close second for me. Awesome match. And pretty much right from when the bell rang, I knew those guys were going to have a killer match. It's just like you could feel it. Like when they're hooking up, you know they're going to be having a great bout. And that one was an awesome match. Definitely my favorite off the top of my head. So anybody else got a CM
I
Punk
agree with you, man. I think you're right on the money.
Money in the Bank 2011, Chicago, Illinois, CM Punk versus John Cena. And Punk is out through the front door to put the WWE Championship in his refrigerator.
One of those rare 5-star matches from Big Dave Meltzer.
Mine was Punk versus Taker at WrestleMania.
It's a good one too.
Yeah, even though he didn't get his go on last, that was his biggest Mania match. I mean, yeah, he had a title match against Jericho, but that's probably it. But I like both of your guys, obviously.
And another one that people don't talk about as much, I was also at this SummerSlam when CM Punk had the TLC match with Jeff Hardy. I just really enjoyed that feud. And then after Punk beat him, he comes out dressed up as Jeff Hardy, and all the little kids are so upset about CM Punk dressed up as Hardy. That was a great storyline, and Punk was doing some of his best work. And Colin Andrew brings up CM Punk versus Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor. That would definitely be up there as well. And Dr. NXT Scorpio brought up CM Punk versus CM Punk versus Cena on Raw in 2013. That was right before WrestleMania. That was a really good one too, from what I remember. So yeah, Punk had a lot of really good ones, and I don't know if he can go at that level now, but if he's in there with the right guy, he might be able to pull off a pretty good match. And I think Punk's one of those guys that can make the match memorable without having to do a ton of flips and crazy stuff. You know, he can pull it off. I think even if he's been out for 7 or 8 years, he just has it in him. He has the it factor.
Good. We're ready to close this thing then, right?
Yeah, we're all set.
Follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_virtue if you dare. But this has been the NoDQ review number 152. I am the Troll Slayer, the Debate King. Somebody in the chat called me Francis Higgins. I don't care because you are chatting and talking about me. But more importantly, it's interaction from the NoDQ Galaxy right here on the NoDQ review, where we do this live every week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So for Aaron Rift, for Robbie Weiss, and for the debut of Dr. Jargo, great show. We'll see you next time, and I'm sure we will have a lot to talk about. Later.